So yes, as you can see, this is one of them collaborations with Rose and Jones, Lizzie. There'll be some sort of link somewhere or other. I know it's 2 videos in 2 days, but yeah. This is we both went for the free sample of Rosarine that came up from Dusita. Both of us are quite big fans of Dusita, actually. I'll talk about that later, but yeah, Lizzie's more the rose person. I'm more the one that would probably struggle with rose. Anyway, do obviously check out Lizzie's channel. The chances are most everyone will watch this on Lizzie's channel. It'll be that's how it is. She's fantastic, you know, great descriptive videos and whatnot, and I'm sure she'll be just as good in this little video. Alright, so enough kind of waffling on. And yes, I do sound hoarse, and if I collapse suddenly it's because it is, I think it's about 26 degrees. As you can see, it's humid and horrific. Anyway, so then we're starting with me, so here's my kind of view. So yeah, thanks Geezer. I'm glad we decided to do this one together, because it's always going to be interesting with Rose, isn't it? It's a note. I think we like both complete opposite roses, and yeah, we always get something different, don't we? Anyway, enough of that. So it opens to me, this one, with a kind of fresher rose. I like the sharpness of the raspberry. There's also a little fizz in there. Now I'm presuming that's from the patchouli early on, which is quite possible. And after a few minutes and a few kind of, as it develops more, the roses become a bit fuller and they sweeten up, and the raspberry gets even juicier, which is quite delightful actually. And then there's also straight up a gorgeous muskiness around it. So yeah, and then it keeps developing and developing and getting fuller and fuller. Although the rose goes quite sharp on me at this stage. You know me and my fussy roseness. Hang on, the wind. A little bit of the sharpness could actually be coming from the incense. And it's a big scent as well. I mean, that's something that I didn't kind of point out. This jumps off your skin. It's not like, you know, beast mode one, but you can smell a massive bubble around yourself, and it's really pleasant actually. In the air, the patchouli and the musks and the roses are the big thing, and they are quite delightful actually. And it's, yeah, I think it's not that it smells bad close up, but it obviously in the cloud it's much more easy because I don't get as much of the sharpness. And as it develops, it seems to kind of smooth out a bit, and the sharpness kind of fades a little bit, and there's a little bit more muskiness in there. And the cocoa, so after you know a couple of hours and stuff and getting the dry down on that, there's this kind of soapy feel, which I'm not sure where it's from. This is from the orris. And then you do get, if you sniff it, it doesn't stand out, don't get me wrong, this is not a chocolatey vanilla fragrance, but you do get the cocoa and the vanilla in like the after smell, which is actually quite pleasant, with the roses obviously and the musks still kind of lingering on through it. And then in the far dry down, you know, you took in 3-4 hours, and it does last a long time. This, I get something like a carnation come through in there, you know, that kind of spicy floral. It's not an easy one to describe, is it, carnation? But you know what it smells like. You get that sort of coming through, and you just get this heavenly trail. Honestly, the dry down is where the magic is. It's just a musky rose, like a pink, plush, beautiful rose with the musks. The musks in this one are really nice. I do think there's ambrette in it as well, But I think there's also potentially, not a good thing or a bad thing, I'm not, you know, there might be a bit of ambroxan or something that just gives it a sharp, not overly sharp, it's not headachy, it's used well, but gives it a sharp push off the skin, I think, for it to last that long and tickle your nose in a nice way, actually, with the ambret. So yeah, that's kind of my first impression. Well, I've worn it a couple of times, but that's first impressions, in it. You can't get you know, an overly extravagant view of something, for me anyway. My nose is, you know, I'm indecisive, but I find it, what do I think of it? The opening is nice. the kind of mids with the sharpness, which is always going to happen with a rose. If it goes sharp, then I'm going to kind of find it difficult. It's not unpleasant though, it's wearable and it's nice, but it wouldn't be my first choice. But then when it moves into the dry down, it's divine. It is absolutely blooming gorgeous. So yeah, what do you think then, Lizzie? We don't normally do it this way round, do we? So I wonder what Lizzie gets. There's definitely no oranges in there. Alright, over to you, Geezer.
Funny thing is, Geezer, I really smell oranges. Thank you so much, John. It is really nice to be back filming a collaboration with my good friend, Mr. John Snow. And he's correct. Normally it's me that sort of leads us into the, you know, the review, and then he'll react to what I'm saying. The whole point of this collaboration and why it is fun to do it with John is that we are so different in what we smell. We are chalk and cheese, night and day, yin and yang. He tends to smell the exact opposite to what I smell. But it's just really interesting to analyse a fragrance and smell two completely different things. And it does help other people to get hopefully a balanced idea of what they might expect. So obviously today we are sharing our thoughts on the newest fragrance from Dusita, which is Rosarine. I've been so excited to try this one. I had no preconception really of how this was going to smell because the notes are very varied. I also thought I'd include this beautiful rose. You know, what a perfect opportunity. I actually picked this yesterday for my garden, and it would seem criminal not to include it in this rose fragrance video. Sarah, who is obviously the perfumer and the founder of Dusita, she is a lover of rose, and she hasn't made a dedicated rose fragrance yet. This is her dedicated rose fragrance. It's a long time coming. She called it Rosarine because it means the Queen of Roses, and this scent showcases her preferred facets of this beloved flower. So it's a rose fragrance that is very personal to her and showcases exactly the sort of rose facets that she enjoys. I think there is a rose fragrance for everyone. There's hundreds of ways of showcasing a rose and the sort of facets of it that you love. John mentioned that he does not like sharp scented rose fragrances. When it comes off too sharp, he's not a fan of that. I'm very fussy when it comes to a rose. I've become very fussy, I should say. I always loved most rosy things, and then obviously getting into fragrance, I've realised how I like my roses served up, and really love or hate. I know exactly how I like them and exactly how I don't like them. And obviously John has led us into his thoughts on this fragrance already, and I'm going to say that I agree for the most part on how he describes it. On the parts that he picks out, I think our conclusions may differ somewhat. I haven't sprayed this on me because I just haven't. I've already worn it. I have got the experience of wearing it, but in terms of this video, I'm gonna, hang on, let's just get it out. I have sprayed it on this little blotter flower. It's already on there. I don't need to spray it again. I'm going to use it as a reference point. I've already gone blank on whether John's actually mentioned what the notes were in this fragrance, but I'm going to do it anyway. So in the opening, we have Bulgarian rose, we have raspberry, lychee, and bergamot. In the heart, we have May rose, we have orris butter, jasmine, sambac, amyris wood, incense, ambret, and coriander. In the base, we have an exclusive patchouli accord that she's made especially for Rosarine, and it's made up of patchouli, vetiver, sandalwood, vanilla, cocoa, and benzoin. And on the whole, it's a fruity, spicy, earthy rose with notes that this is the notes on the website, notes that tease out the rose nuances, or at least the ones that she wants us to appreciate. Now, I'm going to agree wholeheartedly on the opening that John's mentioned. It's very sharp, in a metallic kind of way. I get a metallic feeling, almost like a vegetal metallic sharpness, which is a very strange thing. I don't know if you can actually picture that. Metallic and sharp and a little bit vegetal. And I would say this rose was very dark. I do get a darkness from this. I do get a sweetness in the opening. The thing is with this is that there are so many notes and I can pick out every single one. When you look for them, you can find them straight away. You just can. I get sweetness, I get powderiness, I get a metallicness, I get a slight greenness, I get a sharpness, I get earthiness, I get so much. It's a real complex fragrance. And there's a lot, it's quite a busy fragrance. This is me smelling it close up, of course. Smelling close up, you're going to get a lot. In the air, it's more muted. A bit of a battle with this fragrance. You've got the sweetness, a sweet, powdery, almost jamminess that's fighting for position over an earthy, sharp, metallic mineral. Something that you're going to find the rose planted in. So you've got this rose that's probably giving off this sweet, sort of slightly raspberried, nuanced petals. If you shake it, it gives it like a powdery sweetness, which is coming from that sort of cocoa patchouli accord. John mentioned a fizziness. I think there is a fizziness. It's another aspect of this scent. I think that's coming from maybe the raspberry. I get that kind of really sharp, fizzy, fresh raspberry that's not juicy. Just quite a dry scent, and the raspberries are probably dried, but still quite zingy. There's this fizz coming from that. And the fizz makes me think of yeast. You know, you can get fizzy yeast. It's like, living bacteria. Not in a nasty way, but you get that fizziness from yeast, you know. That's what it makes me think of a little bit. It's a very dry, earthy rose overall, and I think that the sweetness is battling to stand in the spotlight, but not quite getting there. It's really underpinned by all the woody, earthy, dry aspects. I have to say, I find the scent to be at a loggerhead with itself. I find it's confusing me. I don't quite know which bits to pick out. I don't find it settles down on me as much as I think John did. And obviously he was really enjoying the way it dried down and the long wear. And he said it's not divine, it's not heavenly. On me, I find the notes to clash. If I'm honest, they clash. And through the clash, it comes off quite sour. It's a sour quality. And there's a sort of a tang to it. It just will not settle on me. It's frustrating, but unfortunately I get this hum of tangy, dry, sour, almost bitterness, like bitter cocoa. It's like this battlefield of notes, and in the end, no one wins. I'm so fussy with my roses, I'm so fussy. If there's too much patchouli or too much musk, now John mentioned musk, I think he's right, there probably is a lot of musk in here. I'm not personally a big fan of ambrette for a start, and any other musks can really ruin a scent for me. You've got coriander, I think, in the heart. I think there's certain notes that are just clashing for me, and it's frustrating. I do get a bit of that powdery cocoa, which is really nice, but you've got to pick it out. It's the kind of fragrance that I enjoy, putting on like a gloss card and then just sniffing out things, learning about different notes, seeing how they are, picking out different things. It's an experience. It's a fragrance that's interesting. It's an interesting scent. It's just not one that I personally am going to wear and enjoy and have it settle on me. And there is a velvety quality to the rose, I think. So in conclusion, unfortunately, this is not going to be a scent for me, but I highly recommend getting a sample, checking it out, because it is incredibly interesting. And I think this is a scent that's going to sit very differently on everybody. As with many other of the Dusita fragrances, they are all so complex, so niche, so artistic, that when you find one that you love, you really love it. It becomes special. I've got La Douceur de Siam, I've got La Pavillon Dior, two fragrances from the house that are so special to me. When I wear them, it's an experience. Bring this creative freedom that Basara has. She just has so much passion. So that is my thoughts on Rosarine. I didn't get oranges, I didn't get lemons, I got all the notes that John did. My nose isn't broken. So that was Rosarine from Dusita, and thank you so much, John, for inviting me on this collaboration. Always a pleasure, and I'm sure there are many more to come. So thanks so much for watching, guys. Take care. Over.
So yeah, thanks for that, Lizzie. I won't make this a long kind of end of the video, but it's interesting that for once we actually got quite kind of similar vibe and feel from it. Although on me it didn't, like I say, I struggled with the early stage of the fragrance, and but Lizzie's right, there is a lot going on. but it was more the kind of the kind of sharpness and that, and yeah, I mean, even with the spiciness, it's probably where I got the carnation. We've both kind of seen it in a slightly different way. For once, I can't really add much because, yeah, so surprisingly, we're both on the same ball with it. I mean, for me in the dry down, which Lizzie's going to struggle with, the muskiness growing and that kind of musky, powdery, rosy kind of feel. To me, you know, well, that's my jam, isn't it? And obviously me and Lizzie are both fans of the house, and again, weirdly, we both love the same too, Pavilion d'Or and Dulia de Siam, which is a little bit of a rosy one, isn't it? And Pavilion d'Or, possibly my favourite, is a green one to me, with that honeysuckle. So it's weird, we both like the same fragrances from the house, and the two we like, Pavilion d'Or is probably not either me or Lizzie's thing, but yeah, this one for me, like I say, that the dry down is beautiful, magical, but I'd probably, with the struggle with the initial bit, makes it probably not for me, to be fair. But I'm sure people will love this, and the thing is, again, it doesn't matter how much you love a house or the DNA and everything, sometimes things just don't work, do they, necessarily, and they're not going to be absolute loves, are they? Because if that was the case, then you'd find all the fragrances were quite samey, and that would make it quite dull, wouldn't it? But they're not. Dusita has lots of different kind of vibes and feels, and a couple of the newer ones have been in a different style again. This is kind of, to me, this is a mixture of the newer ones with that element of the older ones in there, like the more kind of ethereal, beautiful kind of ones, and then the newer ones have had a bit more oomph about them. So yeah, what's your favourite from Dusita? Have you smelt this one? How did you find it? Is it a great love for you? Right folks, thanks, bye.